It's a good day to brew, baby. What is up? YouTube, it's your boy Millsy, back with Hometown Commander. Look for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of the commander in front of us on my quest to brew a magic. Well, as always, that deck list is going to be down in the description for you below. Thus, I'd really appreciate if you can interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe, consider becoming a member of the channel. Check out all the links down in the description. I would really appreciate it. And today, this is a fun one. So, Bloomborough had so much red-blue spell support with Otters and Ral and all that cool stuff. Same thing with the last few sets. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to go back in the past of a commander I did for the channel and bring it back up to date? And I picked one of the first commanders I did in the channel, in Myra the Magnificent. This is a commander from Unfinity all the way back in 2022. But I thought with the new stacks, the stuff we had, it probably works off pretty well to make Myra even better, considering how many cards have come out between then and now. Myra's a 4-mana 2/4 human performer. It says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, we open an attraction. We can pay X and tap it to exile a target instant or sorcery with mana value X from your graveyard and choose an attraction you control that doesn't have a midway counter on it. Put a counter on it. Whenever you visit that attraction, copy the exiled card. You may cast the copied card without paying its mana cost. That's a lot of text, but basically what we're trying to do is open our attractions when we cast spells. We'll talk about what attractions are. Exile spells we've already cast, put them underneath attractions, and we visit in the future, we get to copy them. If you know anything about me, one of my favorite spell slinging payoffs in all of Magic is a card called Arcane Bombardment, an enchantment that exiles spells under it every turn unless you cast every spell underneath it and have a ton of fun going off with spell slinger goodness. And I think that's what Myra is trying to do. Open these attractions, get spells underneath them, cast them for free, and have a good time. So we'll talk about what attractions are, because I'm going to guess a lot of you have no idea what an attraction is. We'll talk about dice rolling and how those attractions really are going to matter for our deck. We'll talk about how we can pay off the fact that attractions are artifacts and use them for our advantage. And then, well, we're just going to talk about spell slinging, because who doesn't love some Is-It spell slinging? Let's get into it. What's an attraction? Well, Infinity, one of the biggest mechanics it included to the game was attractions. You can have as many attractions, one copy each, in your attraction deck. It starts face down, shuffled up, and anytime you open an attraction, you take the top card off your attraction deck and you flip it, put it face up on the battlefield. There are a lot of attractions. I believe there are 18 legal ones that we could play in the deck. So congratulations, those are the only 18 you can play, because the rest of them are not commander legal. They have the acorn symbol, meaning they're not legal to be played. Mostly because they do wacky stuff and that. When you look at an attraction, you'll notice there's no mana symbol because we don't actually play them. But you'll notice there's two main things: the visit ability and the bottom center of the card. And then there are 6 circles over there on the right where they're illuminated. What the circles on the right mean is at the start of the main phase, or first main phase, we're going to roll a d6. And whatever the result is, we're going to look at all of our attractions. And if the result of our die matches any of the ones that are lit up, we get to visit that attraction. So we have things like Balloon Stand that either make us a balloon token or sack a balloon to give a creature flying until end of turn. Cloud Extruder makes us a 1/1 clown robot token. Hollow Mirror says we can choose a creature we control. Each other creature we control becomes a copy of it until end of turn, except it isn't legendary if the chosen creature is legendary. A fun one, potentially get a bunch of Myra triggers. Kitty Coaster, all creatures +1/+1 on the turn. Swinging Ships is after the first combat phase of this turn, there's an additional combat. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures that attacked. And then Tunnel of Love, choose an opponent. They choose a creature they control, then we choose a creature we control. We can exile the chosen creatures, then if we do, we return them to the battlefield. Otherwise, they fight each other. So kind of an interesting ability, but could be a way to get in another ETB ability. Again, goal here, there's a lot of them. What I've tried to do is make sure that as many of the bubbles and the attractions that I pick match, so we can try our best to get a lot of them off at the same time. We'll talk about attractions a little bit more when we get into the playtest. But again, the goal is open them, try to be visiting them every turn, and then stick spells under them so we can copy them when we do. As far as these dice rolling / attraction things matter, both we have Feywild Trickster, which gives us a 1/1 fairy dragon every time we roll 1 or more dice. Monitor is going to come in and open an attraction when it comes in. And it says once each turn we can pay 1 to re-roll 1 or more dice we roll. This is great because we can re-roll that attraction dice and make sure we hit the ones we want to hit. Pixie Guide says if we roll 1 or more dice, we can roll that many +1 and ignore the lowest roll. which can be a teeny bit of a nombo with our interactions with the numbers we picked, but I think that's negligible as best as possible. Will is a card in the deck that's going to really care about dice being rolled, because again, it allows us to roll and ignore the lowest roll. Whenever we roll one or more dice, we put a counter on it, and it can just get bigger and become a threat. Vexing Puzzle Box is a mana rock that cares about rolling dice. We can add a mana and roll a d20, and whenever we roll one of our dice, we put a number of charge counters on it equal to the result, and then we can remove 100 counters from it to go get any artifact from our deck and put it on the battlefield. That's a pretty cool ability we could potentially use if we get up there. And then Barbarian class, same thing. When we roll one or more dice, instead roll that many +1 and ignore the lowest roll. Whenever you roll one or more dice, target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains menace until end of turn. And then on level 3, everything has haste. So here's just ways to take advantage of us rolling those dice for the attraction and getting ourselves involved. But those attractions are artifacts, which means we can take advantage of them in a couple ways. Galazeth Prismari can tap them for mana to cast instant or sorceries. That's pretty fun, right? Xiao Jun, with its second ability, can tap them to deal a damage to each opponent. Urza can tap them for blue mana, which is pretty cool, and then do Urza things like Urza generally does. Sculpting Steel can come in as a copy of an attraction and have another attraction in the field for us. Rise and Shine turns all of our non-creature artifacts into creatures for 6 mana and makes them 4/4s. It's a potential way to try to end the game by just animating all of those attractions and getting in for damage. And then Gear per Aether Grid, same thing as that Xiao Jun. Tap 2 of them and a damage to any target. Not everyone, but just one target, but still beneficial. Again, our goal here is to take these attractions that are artifacts just sitting on the battlefield and try to find a way to use them other than just visiting them and casting the spells that are underneath them. But as far as spell payoffs goes, we're going to play what probably looks to be pretty standard fare, and I'm using that as a pun, for spell stacks. Balmor to grow our creatures every time we cast an instant sorcery, and remember, when we cast the spells for free off the attractions, we are casting them, meaning Balmor will go off. Geralf says that whenever we cast a spell during our turn, other than the first one, we make a zombie, and the zombies come in bigger and bigger every time. Way to just flood our board and make sure that we're not getting hit too hard, but can become a threat back to our opponents. Gutter Snipe dealing 2 to everyone every time we cast a spell. This is going to get really good once we have a couple spells under our attractions, start casting 3 or 4 a turn. Kitsa Otterball Elite's a really fun one because it can draw and pitch. This is a really great ability because we can pitch the spell we want to potentially put underneath one of our attractions and get it under our attraction that way. And then once we prowess Kitsa up a little bit, we can start copying spells that we cast, and that's pretty great as well. Ovika can just make us a ton of Phyrexian Goblins to threaten our opponents. And remember, since we're casting all those spells underneath the attractions for free, we can just gain a ton of value on things that care about the mana value of the things that we're casting for free. And then Stormkiln Artist, making a treasure every time we cast or copy an instant or sorcery, and that's going to pair really well with the Galazeths and the Urzas to make sure we have a ton of artifacts around to use. Then we have things like Veyron, Voice of Duality, which says whenever casting or copying an instant or sorcery would cause a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, it triggers an additional time. This will trigger all the other things we talked about, but it's also going to trigger Myra as well. So we're going to open up 2 attractions instead of 1, and that's really great. Twinning Staff is going to copy Myra's ability, because if we go all the way back to read it again, it says whenever you visit, copy the exiled card and cast the copy without paying its mana cost, meaning that Twinning Staff will give us another copy of that spell that we cast. And Lost in the Dam is going to make us some tokens every time we cast those things, again flooding our board, making sure we're a danger to our opponent, but we can still hit hard. Again, we haven't looked at this deck in a long time. We tried our best to update it, but at the end of the day, it's still a deck that needs to be tested. And there's some things we can learn in testing. First off is I think I've got enough draw payoffs in the deck, but something like Archmage Emeritus is always a great card, drawing a card every time you cast a spell. Cyberdrive Awakener is in here for another one of those Rise and Shine type effects to turn all of them into 4/4s. It does give them flying as well, so it's a great ability. But the question becomes, are we making enough tokens with our other abilities where we don't necessarily always need to turn our attractions into creatures, but if we really want to use that as an end line, then I think Cyberdrive Awakener is worth pulling in. And then Primal Amulet, making all of our instant sorceries cost 1 less to cast. And then when we cast 4 more, it flips over into a land that says when we use that mana to cast a spell, we get to copy the spell, which is really great for those spells that we're copying to go to the graveyard so that we can put them underneath of Myra. Let's get into our playtest. That's what we do on this show, what we enjoy. Getting into a 4-lander here with Lost in the Damned, Capture Vision Zhao. I'll tell you now, the deck does have a couple extra turn abilities because I think it's one way to really take advantage of pushing the end game in a spells deck like this. You do not have to include them. You're welcome to take them out of your list, of course, but I put them in here to show you what they can do. And then Galvanic Iteration, which is a really fun one. Whenever you cast your next instant or sorcery, copy it, choose new targets. 4-lander means we can get Myra out at least on right, so I think it feels like a good choice. We'll get that Tributary in turn 1 since there's nothing we're doing turn 1. Turn 2 we see Will. Will's not a bad option here in turn 2. It's going to be a couple turns before we start rolling a dice, but I don't mind getting it down, and getting it ready to go. Turn 3, I think we get Lost in the Dam down here, so we can set that up, kind of get it ready to go. Same thing, I think turn 4 here, we get Myra down. Now, as soon as we start casting some spells, we're going to open some attractions. We've got the Dice Roll payoff. We got the Exile payoff, so we've got lots of anywhere other than our hand starts. We've got lots of payoffs ready to go. We just need to get there. So turn 5, we can... Let's see, we can either play Reliquary Tower or Fjord. If we play the Reliquary Tower, we can play the Capture. If we play the Fjord, then we'll just have to play like Pixie Guide and the Seer Visions. I think it would make sense to, as much as it'd be the dismay of some people, I think it makes sense to go Galvanic here. That's going to open me an attraction. And I don't know if there's any good way to shuffle this. So what I'm just going to do is take the top one. I don't know if it's shuffled or not. We'll kind of go from there. It's called, we got Bounce Chamber. We can visit it to return a creature we don't control the lowest toughness among creatures you don't control to its owner's hand. So interesting. And then I think we'll just cast Serum Visions here. Make another attraction. This time we have Information Booth to draw a card when we visit it. And we get 2 copies of Serum Visions. We're going to draw a card. Scry 2, Xiaojun, and Reality Shift are both good. But I think I'll put the Reality Shift on bottom and put the Xiaojun back on top. Draw the Xiaojun. 1, 2. Here's another turn spell. And the Treasure Vault. I think I'll put Treasure Vault on bottom. Put that extra turn spell back on top. Now we've got 2 attractions. 1, 2, 3. So we've got 2 mana left. I can actually pay to put that Serum Visions or that Galvanic Iteration underneath one of the attractions. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to tap Myra and pay 2. And I'm going to put that Galvanic Iteration underneath this attraction right here. We would mark it with a counter. We're just going to do this for the purposes of visually. So now when we visit this, we get to copy and cast Galvanic Iteration for free, which is really great for when we start playing these extra turn spells if we want to go down that route, with your deck. So we'll go to our next turn. We're going to draw, start of our main phase, we're going to roll a 6-sided dice. Now remember, these attractions both have 2 and 6 illuminated, so they're what we really want. And we get a 2, so we get to visit both of these. We'll visit Bounce Chamber and return a creature and get to cast Galvanic Iteration for free, and then we'll draw a card with Information Booth. So we cast Galvanic Iteration, which will mean that we'll open up another attraction. Now we can't visit it this turn, but that's okay. So Bumper Car says target creature must be blocked this turn if able. So now the next spell we cast, we get to copy, and we can choose new targets for the copy. Will get a counter because we rolled a dice. And then Lost in the Damned would get us that spawn token because we cast something from somewhere other than our hand. So in turn 6 here, 6 mana, I think it makes the most sense to fire one of those extra turn spells off. We get a copy, but more importantly, we get another attraction from Myra. And then that's it. We don't get a spawn from Lost in the Dam because from our hand. Will doesn't see any dice get rolled, but we do get 2 extra turns because of the copy from Galvanic Iteration. And I think you can start to see the kind of fun that we can potentially put here. I mean fun by value. So we've got 2 extra turns. We come to the next turn and draw. We're going to roll a 6-sided dice again. We get a 4. Now, unfortunately, the only attraction that a 4 is going to hit is Storybook Ride. So we'll get a counter. Dork Ride says we exile the top X cards of our library where X is the number of attractions you visited this turn, which is just 1. And we can play those cards this turn at the beginning of the next end step. If any of those cards remain exiled, put them on the bottom. So we get a monitor. So a way to open up another attraction. We're on turn 7. We'll play our 7th land. I mean, I do want to play that monitor, right? Because that can give us another attraction to potentially visit. But I think what makes the most sense is tapping Myra for 5, putting that capture underneath. I'm going to put it underneath Storybook Ride because it has 2, 3, 4, and 6. Well, I think it makes more probably sense for bumper cars, right? Because it's 2, 3, and 6 eliminated, meaning half of the time we're going to get it. And I think this is where a deck like this would probably become to the point where, as long as you're hitting these 2, 3, or 6, you're taking another turn, and we're just going to try our best to keep that loop going. That was 5 of our mana. We got 2 mana left. We'll just play the Pixie, right? Monitor is going to go back to the bottom of our library because we didn't play it this turn. Again, take an attack with Will if we want to, but at the end of the day, we're going to go to our next extra turn, draw for the turn. We're going to roll that 6-sided dice. We hit a 4, which unfortunately will not hit bumper cars, but it will hit Storybook Ride. So we're going to exile 1 for Seat of the Synod. We're going to play the Synod, which will get us a spawn. And then basically what we're going to do at this point is play that Temporal Manipulation from our hand for, let's see. Let's go Gutter Snipe into the Temporal Manipulation for another turn. Let's see. Pixie Guide, actually, I apologize, would have let us roll a second dice. We'll do that on the next turn. We would get a counter. Temporal Manipulation for another turn. 2 damage each for our opponents there. We would move into the next turn. We'll roll another dice. And where we get to roll 2. So we roll a 4 and a 5. And ignore the lower roll. So unfortunately, that was worse, right? Because the 5 isn't a roll that we want. But actually, right, Will lets us roll 3. Jeez. So it would have been that and a 1. So we would have ignored the 1 and gotten our choice between 2 and 4. It doesn't say we have to use the highest result, to my understanding. I think we still get to pick a result, which obviously we would pick 2 to visit the most attractions. And I think you can kind of understand where the goal of that playtest is going. Again, the extra turn spells weren't the thing that were important. It was just a way to keep that attraction value going again and again and again, getting those spells again and again, and just building that spell crescendo as you keep the stuff rolling. We'll go 2-lander here with a Soul Ring, Kitsa, Pixie Guide, Rapid Hybridization, Xiaojun. So not a bad start here. Turn 1, I think we'll just get that Soul Ring down, right? Turn 2, we'll play our island. We can get Myra down here. We have Command Performance. This is a spell we haven't talked about. Open an attraction, roll to visit your attraction. So we can actually do this, right, as soon as we play the spell. And we're going to completely ignore the stickers. We're not playing with the stickers. That's not really why this is in the deck. But the main thing is for the top 2. To basically either open an attraction twice. We can't just say one. So basically just open an attraction and roll to visit all of our attractions. I think it makes the most sense for Myra here. Just a casual turn 2 Myra. Turn 3. Well, I can't Kitsa and play Pixie Guide. So I think I'll just play something like Big Score. This again. We'll just pick a random one. I don't know why that doesn't shuffle, but we'll get Kitty Coaster. Creature we control get +1/+1 at a turn. Additional cost to cast it. We're going to pitch this Betrayal. Because its mana value is 0, I should be able to get that for free, right? Underneath this one this turn if I want to. And that's going to draw me 2 and make me 2 treasures. And I think I'm just going to use the 2 treasures to get Pixie Guide. Yeah, I think I'll use the 2 treasures to get Pixie Guide down. Just to get something down this turn to use. And like I said, because that Betrayal has 0 mana value, I'm going to put underneath this Kitty Coaster. So now when we visit it, we'll get that. So with now with Pixie Guide, we get to roll 2d6 and ignore the lower one, which is 3. It is a 4, so the note of Betrayal says search target opponent's library for a creature card and put it to the battlefield under controls, and then that player shuffles. This is just going to get probably brutal. Pick your opponent you think that's the best creature, go get it, and bring it down. And then creatures we control get +1/+0 until end of turn. 5 mana this turn. I think I like Kitsa plus. I could command performance. I don't know what I got, but at the end of the day, I don't think it particularly matters at the moment. I think we want to get another spell. Sorry, that's a spell we did cast. So we would get another attraction. Again, I'm just going to pick a random one here. So we open the attraction, and let's see. Chronic Shooter gets me that token. I think I would just pass. Leave up coat mana for maybe something like Reality Shift, just in case we want to remove something on our opponent's turns, or Rapid Hybrid. Let's just say for the purpose of this, we do one of them. That would open us up another attraction. Again, I'll just pick a random one, which is Balloon Stand, giving us either a balloon or sacking a balloon to give something flying. We'll come back to our turn, draw for turn, and we're going to go ahead and roll those dice again. We get a 4 and a 2. So we ignore the 2, meaning we immediately go for 4, which is going to have the kitty coaster go off again, which opens us up, right? Another attraction with Myra's ability. We'll just get a random one. We get Tunnel of Love. Get the Betrayal, go get somebody's card. Kitsa goes up to a 2/3 now. We draw Ral. Ral's great, right? Getting those 1/1 otters with prowess and starting to do that. Now we can put Reality Shift or Big Score underneath somebody, underneath one of the attractions if we want to. I think what I'll do is put Ral down, right? Tick it up to get an otter, so now the otters can start growing as we're casting these spells. I've just got 1 mana left, so I'll keep it up for that Rapid Hybrid. And just kind of move into my opponent's turns. If I see something worth removing, let's say I use the Rapid Hybrid, that gets me a counter onto Ral, and that does get me another attraction. Again, we'll just pick a random one out of here. We get Trash Bin, which is 2 and 6, and mill 2 cards and return a card at random from our graveyard to our hand. Now the Otter's army is going to start getting a little bit bigger and bigger. We'll go to our turn. Again, roll 2 dice. A 5 and a 1. Unfortunately, we ignore the 1, so our 5 isn't, I believe... Oh, we do get 1 attraction, which is the Clown Extruder, making us a clown. And again, what ideally we're trying to do is every turn try to put something underneath an attraction with Myra, making sure that we're rolling, as best we can. Get as many rolls as we can. Get the value. I mean, a Ral here, I think, just sets us up good value. And just, again, have fun. The attractions are a wacky mechanic. I really want to print this deck out and try it. I think this idea is a ton of fun, just to be copying these spells and getting value from the payoffs and just having a good time. I can understand if the extra turn spells are too much for you. Take them out. They're not necessary, but they are a good way to get you a little bit further ahead. 19, I apologize, legal attractions in the deck. But thank you so much for watching. I'd love to know what you think of Myra down in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys next time.